Every drunk writer goes through a regrettable period wherein they believe their own intoxication is somehow revelatory or inspirational. This is natural. This is just part of growing up. It is also, of course, complete bullshit. Drunk writers tend to write drunken bullshit, and I am no exception. Drunken bullshit generally seems terrible upon sober examination, but magically becomes compelling when you're drunk again, pulling out crumpled papers from the wastepaper basket and weeping over your own genius. But perhaps I've said too much. Knowing that what I write when inebriated is pretty much a waste of time and should be sealed within concrete and buried at sea so no one can ever discover it and mock me is just one of many lessons about booze that I've learned. There are many more. The sad part about this part of my adult education is that by the time I have mastered all booze has to teach me about enjoying it, procuring it, making it in my bathtub, and, of course, surviving it, especially the bathtub gym, the fumes of which can blind you if you don't enter the bathroom wearing protective gear, I will likely be too old to continue drinking. Plus, there's the physical wear and tear of liquor. I firmly believe that a nip now and then is good for you, healthful and soothing, but anything in excess is harmful, and part of the point of boozing is to drink to excess, at least some of the time. You don't truly know a liquor, after all, until you survive its hangover. Otherwise, you're just a tourist. Saying that you like the vodka is like saying you like Canada. Saying you can't drink Georgie vodka because it makes you feel like your eyes are being expelled from your skull by a determined army of scratchy red ants, that is useful knowledge. So, before palsy and delirium sets in on a more or less permanent basis, before I start resembling Nick Cage at the end of Leaving Las Vegas, or at least before the Duchess forbids me to ever drink again and I am reduced to replacing my mouthwash with scotch, thus spending even more time in the bathroom than I currently do, something long thought impossible by theoretical physicists around the world, I thought it prudent to write down what booze has taught me so far, in case I forget it all, someday soon. You have to be prepared for anything in this life. Life is like a twisting mountain trail in the midst of a blizzard, with you, pathetic you, picking your way laboriously along its unreliable path, terrified and probably confused as to your location 99% of the time. And then, around random turns, trolls jump out and startle you, trying to loosen your precarious grip on the cliff face. One of those startling trolls is the unlikely but theoretically possible event of someone buying you a drink. When this happens, when some twist of fate blows through the room and someone turns to you and asks what you're having, be prepared. If you freeze up and order poorly, or worse, miss the opportunity completely, you'll either end up sipping a light beer and pretending it was on purpose, or you'll end up hating yourself. Actually, you'll end up hating yourself regardless. So have a standing order, something that every bar in the universe will be able to handle. This is not the time for showboating with fancy European recipes or ultra-rare single malts. Believe me, having a standing order will save you some tears and breastfeeding. Too many people feel like once they survive their 21st birthday and learn to fear schnapps, they know all they need to know about booze and promptly settle into a routine involving one glass of wine with dinner once a week for 20 years. Then they suddenly rip one off at a bar and are amazed to find themselves puking in a Port Authority restroom at 1 in the morning. Drinking is not, or at least should not be, something you dabble in. It's like bodybuilding. You have to exercise your liver on a constant basis to keep it strong. You wouldn't sit on the couch for 20 years and then try to run a marathon now, would you? My advice, drink whenever possible. This doesn't mean you have to get shit-faced every night, as this will result in having a liver the size of a football and leathery yellow skin, but keep your hand in. When the opportunity or necessity of a lengthy bar session comes up, you will be ready. Shame is never an option, and make no mistake, there is shame in being overserved. Maybe when you're 18 and stupid, there's a certain pride in drinking yourself half to death, but once you mature, it's really something most people try to keep under wraps. No matter how smart you are, or how regularly you exercise your booze muscles, there's going to come a time when you have just a tiny bit too much and that familiar feeling of regret will rise up within you. Trust me, it will happen. The trick is not to waste your energies in fruitless avoidance of the inevitable, but to deal with the inevitable when it settles its greasy buttocks on your head and lets loose. Whatever you do, let no one know you are overserved. Things are not like in the movies where people suddenly bug out their eyes and must rush to the bathroom. If you know yourself, you know 10 or 15 minutes ahead of time that you've turned down a dark path. Put aside immature bravado and admit to yourself, and yourself alone, that your internal battlements have been breached and that your stomach has ordered an emergency evacuation in order to salvage what's left of your health. Take measures. Make your excuses and slip away, but do so calmly. Nothing screams holy shit like a sudden, hurried retreat. With any luck, and a quick freshening with whatever supplies are at hand, you can return to the conversation refreshed and unsuspected, and possibly even ready for round 2 with demon alcohol, although I'd recommend that only for people who really know themselves, or who are in serious training for some sort of booze Olympics I am unaware of, and how dare they leave me unaware of it. Some might say that the best approach to alcohol is to not drink any, or at least never drink to excess. We have a name for people like that around these parts: communists. It's certainly a right to confine your imbibing to a glass of wine on a very special occasion and nothing but orange knee-high the rest of the time, but isn't that like only reading a book once a year? There are lots of different alcohols out there. Find one you like and get to know it. Or don't. After years of booze abuse, I am sleepy and easily distracted.